Šta? Brate, nije se čulo.
I think my initial reaction, honestly, was just silence. I'd never read anything that spoke to my soul in a way that I was kind of not expecting, nor had I ever really thought of. But it just really spoke to me in a way that no script really ever has.
When I first read the script, I was really struck by how personal it felt. You can kind of feel when a writer is writing something that is born out of their actual experience. And I thought that Chloe had written something that really dealt with these issues in a really nuanced, complicated way.
I wanted to reckon with some unresolved feelings I had in the past, specifically dating men who I felt were threatened by me on some level, threatened by, either my ambition or, any little bits of accomplishments, here and there. And the only answer or solution I felt at the time was by undermining those, those ambitions and making myself small.
I also felt that Chloe was telling a story about this guy who was very complicated and is in many respects sort of functions as the villain of the movie, with a lot of understanding, compassion, and nuance, and I just thought it was really thrilling to read. And clearly, when you read something that is born out of personal experience, it's really clear, and you can really feel that in a kind of intangible way in the writing.
When I first started writing the script, I started mapping out the relationship drama and the arc of that first. And once I figured out how that would unravel and implode, then I was looking for a backdrop to set it against. And I landed on finance because, for one, of the high stakes nature, I thought it was exciting. I thought it was ripe for drama. But also I felt like I could emotionally relate to those highs and lows. And one day you feel on top of the world and the next day you feel just at the bottom. And how it fluctuates, so quickly and so dramatically all the time, I think was something that I could tap into. And I felt was right for this relationship, and how the toxicity of a work environment feeds into the toxicity of a relationship, and vice versa, and it becomes this vicious cycle that you can't really escape.
I think any woman can relate to how it feels to be a woman in a very male-dominated industry. So that part wasn't too hard to imagine. And then, I drew off a lot of my own experiences and my friends and women I knew, their experiences, and also just, we had a week of very intense rehearsals with Chloe and Alden, and we really established that dynamic and created a really safe environment for us to go to the places that we go to in the film.
One thing that Chloe really facilitated in the process was that she was really, we talked early on, the first time I talked to her was about doing rehearsal, and so we did, I think, about a week of rehearsal, which was really, really, really great, and something that I personally love doing, and especially the way we did it, which is we did it in the actual sets. We did improvisations of the first time we said "I love you" to each other lying in bed in the actual bedroom in the apartment where we filmed. We did me touring Phoebe's character around the hedge fund offices for the first time, showing her where things were and kind of flirting with her and getting to know her. And so by the time that we're now playing these scenes in these spaces, we've spent a week getting to know where the salt shaker is kept, getting to know where all these different things, so we feel really comfortable with that environment, which is an enormous luxury that you very rarely get in film. And then we also just kind of seeped into the fabric of these spaces and environments, or these memories and this history and this kind of intimacy. And I think that had a big impact on us feeling like we actually lived in those spaces in a way.
Emily's look was very important, I think, to getting in her headspace. I think, you know, she's surrounded by men in suits, essentially, and she's wearing these kind of stiletto heels, and I think, you know, that's kind of the only way she feels confident. And I think Luke slowly picking at her, what she's wearing, and kind of getting under her skin in that way is very unsettling to her.
When I met with Alden and Phoebe for the roles, I mean, it was pretty instant that they were right, and not only right, perfect for these characters. I think they're two incredibly strong, versatile actors that can do anything. And also what excited me about it was that they had never done anything like this before. And I love to cast against type. They were both like so ready to dive into this material head first, you know, without question. And they're just like two of the most like committed actors I've ever worked with. And every day they showed up and they just blew the roof off that set.
Ready, and action.
I think with Alden and I, we worked very well together, and so we established like a great working relationship, which was amazing. And you know, Chloe, having such a brilliant director who really knows what she wants, again, it adds something to that dynamic and that chemistry that is kind of unexplainable.
Working with Phoebe was terrific. She's an incredibly open, honest actress, and that was really clear from the very first time we met and read some of the scenes together.
Building Alden and Phoebe's chemistry was effortless. I mean, the two of them, I remember the shower scene, and we shot that pretty early on, where it's early on in the film, and they're both in love and, you know, freshly engaged, and it's like at that point, like, love is possible and love is everything. And I remember that scene was just magic. Like, they started slow dancing, and the way that he looked at her and she looked at him, I like knew I had a movie at that point, because I felt like it lived and died off their chemistry, and they didn't need any help with that.
Chloe was really wonderful and really had a really strong feeling for where the story wanted to live tonally and what she wanted to do, and was really excited by the idea of experimenting and taking things to pushing the envelope on a lot of things, which was great.
I could go on and on about working with Chloe. Chloe, I mean, for her first feature, it was just incredible to see how she worked with the actors. You know, this was written by her, so the script was phenomenal, but I was excited and interested to see what she was like as a director. And I mean, she just knew she had such a specific vision for the film and for every scene. So, you know, she knew exactly what she wanted from both me and Alden. So it was just, it felt very easy coming onto set and knowing that you were in very, very safe hands, because she would always push us to the brink. We thought we could, you know, we'd start a scene and you think it's going to go a certain way, and Chloe would always, you know, just shift it and push us, and by the end you're absolutely exhausted, but you've given everything you can give. And yeah, it was really fun working with Chloe.
Eddie is magic. He's been one of my favorite character actors forever. What I love about him and his work, there's just always, and obviously in this film too, but he's got this electricity in his eyes, and it's it's always a little bit dangerous, and you never know what he's gonna do or what he's gonna say. And so his performances just keep you on the edge, and that was so exciting for the role of Campbell for me. And also the fact that he had never played like this kind of role before.
Eddie was such a breath of fresh air on the set as well, because we'd shot all the interiors in the apartment, and then we went to the office, and Eddie came in and brought this kind of fresh energy, exciting energy to the set, which was really fun and a joy to have around. And he's also just so, you never know what to expect with Eddie. He always gives you something different. You're always on your toes. I mean, there's a scene in the film where Eddie's character really screams at Emily, and I just remember shooting that scene and feeling so terrified by his character. And then we cut, and you know, he's finishing telling you a joke that he started before the take. I mean, he's so like in and out of character, and it just really keeps you on your toes and is a lot of fun. So it was great working with him. Going into shooting the film, I knew that there's specific scenes in the film that are, you know, on the darker side, and it was really important to me to hear Chloe's vision for those, and you know, specifically the beginning scene, which I'd never read anything like it on a page, and to me that's, you know, I mean, it happened, so it was crazy that I'd never come across that in a script before. But the fact that it foreshadowed kind of the end of the film and the gruesomeness of their relationship in a way was exciting to me. And, you know, those scenes are so specifically, there's a reason for every single aspect of those scenes. So we really crafted them very carefully.
For the scenes that take a darker turn, the way we went about shooting them was in two parts. So we shot the performance part first and just knocked out the performance side. And then we treated the second part as a stunt. And because that was very technical, and that I think was helpful for everyone going into that. And then we didn't have to worry, because it's like you know, especially for the actors, they're feeling one thing and then they have to worry about where their head is gonna hit at a certain point. No, you have to shoot those scenes in two parts and treat them as two separate things.
Are you serious? You stole my fucking job!
I think this film really explores how women can feel very crippled and isolated by their success, and how they have to ultimately suppress a lot of their strengths to kind of avoid the rage of a really insecure man, which is ultimately what Luke ends up being.
I think for me personally, one of the things that was most appealing to me about this film, because I've read other films that maybe take on adjacent themes or issues, is that it was primarily dealt with through the vehicle of these two very specific people and their human experience between these two people. And the characters in the movie are presented as full, complicated characters. And what I feel from the movie, from the script, at least when I first read it, is that it's expressive of a lot of emotions that are personal to Chloe. This isn't something she said, but it was just my sense, that are very complicated and very, in some cases, unresolved. And so while it has some things to say, it's also just like a really guttural expression of somebody's experience of these dynamics, kind of first and foremost, rather than a treatise about what's right or wrong.
I hope that the audience leaves this film asking certain questions, and ideally, you know, some of the same questions that drove me to making this film in the first place. Like, how can we, as a society, dismantle the link between female empowerment and male fragility? How can women learn to embrace their successes without fearing that it'll hurt them on some level? How can we demystify the role that men are raised into thinking they're supposed to fill? And how can we love and trust one another in a world that's so dependent on the very dynamics that fracture us?
Even the guys who are at the hedge fund are really different than Luke, in the sense that Luke is really aspiring to be a good person, wants to be a good person, wants, you know, is attracted and drawn to Emily's ambition and power, and yet has there's a line that he's unable to deal with, and the reasons he's unable to deal with that, and the reasons that, if you want to extrapolate him out to other men in the world, are unable to deal with that, are really interesting and really worth asking about.
No one person is going to come out of this movie feeling the same way as someone else, and I think that's what makes it exciting. Everyone is going to come out of this film feeling, you know, a certain way based on who they are and what experiences they've had. I think it'll fuel conversation and debate, and I think that is essential.
I don't need you people. I am gonna make it on my own skill and my own merit, and when I do, I'm gonna run your fucking company into the ground.